Epilogue. Long since had the starlet of the memory machine, a film about the expedition to Tormance, come to its end, and the students sat statued with impressions. The teacher was not worried about the strong psyche of the girls and boys of the era of met hands and let them feel deeply what they had seen. The first to come to themselves were Kimi and Puna, always the fastest. "I have aged 1,000 years!" Puna exclaimed. "What a terrible world! And in it our earthly people live. I feel myself poisoned, and for a long time. Maybe I shouldn't have looked at the inferno? You have not grown older, but wiser," the teacher smiled at her. "Becoming wiser is never easy. Now ye become more adult if ye have realized that the knowledge school gives ye, and the tests to which it subjects ye, are not at all for the sake of filling your heads with a simple sum of laws and facts. This is a corridor of necessity through which everyone must pass in order to rectify their instincts, learn a sense of social consciousness, and above all, caution in actions and subtlety in dealing with people. The corridor is extremely narrow and difficult to pass." "Now I understand everything," Puna agreed, "and even the seemingly unnecessary security systems. This is absolutely essential. The more complex the structure of a society, the easier it can collapse into inferno." And yet, the girl hastened, everything, thoughts, actions, and dreams, should reduce suffering and increase freedom for all other people. "Oh yes, you're right," worried, said Kimi. "I have a different, very strange impression. The earth has become 1,000 times dearer and more beautiful. Now I realize how heartfully our home is in the infinity of the world and what it costs to create it. But all this is like a thin curtain, hiding behind itself, an abyss of darkness both in the past of mankind and in the fate of the planets. I will be a historian as she, and I will work at the Academy of Grief and Joy." "She? This is Phirotis, of course?" the teacher asked. "Yes," answered Kimi proudly. "And ye will be convinced that I was not mistaken in my choice. The granddaughter of Phirotis is attending a third cycle school in the southern hemisphere near Durban," the teacher said slyly. "What?" flared Kimi. "Phirotis had a daughter on Earth who became the wife of the son of Grifrift. They have a daughter and a son," the teacher explained. "There are descendants of the other starship pilots. I know about the sons of Chedi and the daughters of Iviza, who were born after their return from Tormance," he added. "Although one returned with a physical wound, and probably both with soul ones," said Dalv. "One cannot go through the inferno with impunity, as they both had to. The first time I felt scared was when I realized how fragile human culture is. They, the Tormancians, reached the cosmos, conquered unimaginable space, received from destiny a good planet. Yes, and having plundered it, they rolled into a dark abyss, into an inferno, killing and inspiting," Yvette added in a voice choked with excitement. "Everything there is contrary to, here in our world, as if in Tamas. A bright individuality, great abilities, instead of serving society, make a closed egoist out of a person, for some reason extolling himself," said the wistful Kunti. And Miran, even more sullen than usual, added, "I perceived the full depth of the fall of the Tormancians, when their attitude towards artists became clear. They did not understand the people of art, fragment by fragment recaptured from death and time, from scattering in space, beauty, dreams, the ideal of the as yet not taken place but possible, composing a ladder of ascent from inferno, away from blurry feelings and instant happiness of nature." "Well said, Miran," the teacher praised. "The purpose of the artist consists precisely in helping to rise from the inferno. Without this, there is only blind talent, no matter how great it may be. The spectrum of nature's charm, the animal power of the body, the feeling of uncontrolled freedom, the whirlpool of eternal roaming, hunting, battles, evil spells of dark passion, everything that makes up the animal essence of the wild sons and daughters of Earth. This powerful and ancient magic ye will oppose with light and the boundless universe of the noosphere over the dark depths of the self-defeating eye." "What happened next to the crew of the Dark Flame here on Earth?" Puna asked. "Ye will read about this in many novels. You will see in several films dedicated to the further fate of the returnees," answered the teacher. "We're talking about the returnees," Kimi said, "but what happened on Tormance? Are the destinies of Vir, Noreen, and Tail known? Did the starship fly away immediately after the death of Rhodus, leaving everything to the mercy of fate? Our people could not do that. Could not, the teacher agreed. And I was waiting for this question. Here is an additional starlet recorded on the dark flame. It is short. I advise you to watch it immediately while the memory of the experience is fresh. Vir Noreen, a minute before the catastrophe, switched to the starship and saw everything in the side section of his screen, just like Tael, through Evisa's non-apped taken from the shrine. Tael fell to the stone floor of the building where he was waiting for Rotus. The ringing of the SDP made him rise. Vir Noreen demanded that he immediately get a black cloak with a hood like the Punishers. What will you do, Vir? Rotus, the only Phi Rotus in the universe, is no more. But there is an apparatus that destroyed her. I have no doubt that it is the only one. Otherwise they would have killed both of us at the same time. Tael, be an earthling! Take action, I am coming to ye. Sote, tear-stained, suffering but not broken, remained to wait for Vir Noreen at the crumbling walls of an old garden building, guarded by a non-apped. When Vir Noreen ran to the laboratory named after ZUG, Tael had already obtained the suit of a Night Punisher. Vir Noreen descended into the dungeon. Passing the gallery leading to the Fifth Temple, he confidently walked out onto the square to the monument to Almighty Time. At the main gate of the temple, Lilas, in their usual form, dispersed the crowd of townsfolk awakened by the explosion. The passers-by were scared away by Vir Noreen, and the two Punishers who were on duty at the gate he forced to not see him. Faint figures prowled the garden, tracking someone. Vir Noreen thought of Phi Rotus, shrewdness and quick thinking, which had saved the core of the nascent resistance forces of Tormance from great danger. The running of the Black Punishers made the task easier. Unnoticed by anyone, Vir reached the Fifth Temple and, knowing its structure well, climbed the western staircase to the upper corridor, where no less than 50 blacks were still crowded. Slowly, as if casually, moving along the wall, the astronavigator heard snatches of phrases that formed a clear picture. What are we waiting for? He'll come by himself. And the other was caught? Finished off? We are wasting time. Can't you see? This one, the one who made the apparatus, has killed himself. Near the apparatus, half pushed into Rotus's room, lay a decapitated corpse. Obviously, the inventor, no longer wishing to serve the lords, had put his head under the dissecting beam. Hey, you there! What are you fussing about for? Come here. Vir Noreen had been called out by the man in charge here, with a silver snake sewn on his robe. Vir Noreen approached fearlessly, thrusting his gaze into the darkness of the slit of the hood. Yes, that's right. I ordered you to stand here. Do not let anyone near the machine. You will answer with a slow death in a barrel of acid. Vir Noreen bowed, stood by the machine, stooping to hide his height. Seizing the moment, he shoved 4 cubes connected by wires in different places of the apparatus, stood for a while, and left along the same way he had come. To the surprise and fear of the Punishers, the carefully guarded apparatus suddenly began to heat up by itself, causing a fire, which they could barely extinguish. What remained was an ugly, gnarled ingot of metal, similar to the sculptures of the past. Genshi went on a rampage, ordering that the house where Vir Noreen lived be blown up. The building, rigged with explosives according to all the rules of the art of building construction, collapsed, causing a panic throughout the area. It would have buried under its ruins not only Vir Noreen, but no less than 300 residents, had they not been evacuated in advance by the messengers of Tael. The engineer knew his lords and their beastly disregard for human life. The explosion of the building covered the traces of Vir Noreen in the city of the Center of Wisdom. Now it was a safe haven for the astronavigator and his girlfriend. In the meantime, Vir Noreen, pacing in front of the SDP, explained to his companions the reasons why he would remain on Tormance. If earlier he had hesitations, uncertainty about the correctness of his deed, then now there was no trace of doubt. Phi Rotus had died, not having time to strengthen her noble cause. He would remain to help the Tormancians. He was aware of the fact that he could not replace Rotus, and that there was a mortal danger and how enormous was the loss of the beautiful earth. But he had a spiritual support, a root in someone else's soil, consolation with great love. Vir pushed an embarrassed Sute towards the screen. She stood with eyes and nose swollen from tears, with burning cheeks, her head bowed, small, kind, and lovely. The Earthlings understood. Separation would not be hopeless for their friend, and death in the name of a gigantic objective had never frightened the inhabitants of the earth. "Fulfill the covenant of Rhodas, dear friends," said Vir Noreen. "Remember her last words. Only ye and I have heard them. Rift, what words? Why are ye silent?" asked Chetty, crying no less than Sute. She stood apart from the others, clinging to Eviza Tanit. In this mournful and melancholy pose, recorded by video footage of the ship, they were captured by the authors of the monument to the Dark Flame. Learn them from the recording. I don't have the strength to repeat. But ye should know the last 3 words of the head of the expedition immediately. "Ship, take off!" Griffriff turned white. It seemed that the commander was about to fall. Eviza started toward Rift, but he pushed her aside and straightened up. "Is there anything ye and Tael need, Vir Noreen?" he asked in a dead voice without intonation. "Yes, send us the latest discoid. Give back all the films about Earth, all the materials for making the DPE and SMI, all the spare batteries for the STP and..." The astronavigator hesitated. "Some earthly food and water. For Tormansian friends to taste our world from time to time. As much medicine as possible that does not require special knowledge." "That's all. We will prepare it," Griffriff answered. "Give us a landing spot." The commander touched the console, and the pilot spheroid of the starship, girded with lights, signaled preparation for departure. Vir Noreen's heart ached with anguish. He silently bowed to his compatriots and turned off the SDP. The starship Dark Flame broke off all communication with Tormance, as if it was on a planet poisonous for earthly life. Removed outgoing galleries and balconies. The smooth hull of the ship rose motionlessly in the hot air of day and darkness of night, like a mausoleum to the perished earthlings. Inside at the screen sat Oladez. Her sophisticated hands and ears awaited signals from Vir Noreen or Tael, but both were silent. Even a person completely unfamiliar with Tormance could have picked up notes of confusion and anxiety in the all-planetary transmissions, although not a word was said about the death of Rhodas and the seeming death of Vir Noreen. For some reason, ZUG made a short speech about the friendship between Earthlings and the inhabitants of Yanyak. Neither General Shi nor Kaluf appeared on the broadcasts. Chetty and Eviza explained to their companions the custom of hiding all emergencies from the people, especially if something had happened above, as the oligarchic higher echelon was colloquially called. A day passed. All transmissions on the common channels of the planet suddenly stopped. Chaya Chagas called the Dark Flame over a secret network, promising to clarify what had happened, and assured that steps were being taken to investigate and punish those responsible. They did not answer him. There was nothing to talk to him about. To request to take care of the astronavigator meant putting him into the hands of people who had not honor, not loyalty to their word, not good intentions. To agree on the return of the expedition, on the delivery of medical and technical equipment, films, works of art, this was contrary to the entire policy of the oligarchic society. And what kind of agreements could be spoken of if there were no laws, councils of honor and rights on the planet? No one took public opinion into account. The Lord ordered that the starship be called until evening, and then to move on to threats. Night fell, and the silent dome of the huge ship still towered over the brush of the coast. Yet once more the starship pilots managed to see their dark flame from the side. Since the termination of communication with Vir Noreen, according to the galactic clock of the Dark Flame, 800 thousandths of a second had elapsed, roughly corresponding to 14 Earth hours. Oladez refused to leave her post, although she was offered a change by all the other crew members who had finished preparing for the dispatch of the discoid and departure. Only Mintacore and Div Symbol continued to tune the pilot devices. Griffriff, chasing obsessive thoughts about Rhodas, pondered the lists of things immersed in the disk, trying not to miss the decisively important, as if Vir Noreen were being abandoned on an uninhabited planet. The absence of communication began to worry the commander. To think of any new victims among Earthlings or Tormansian friends was unbearable. And the capital was stubbornly silent, and the uncertainty of what was happening was painfully protracting the time even for the patient Earthlings. Rift was wondering if he shouldn't perhaps respond to Choyo Chagas and carefully inquire about the fate of Tael when the call finally rang and Vir Noreen appeared on the screen. The detectives of the Lilacs had nonetheless reached the dungeon of the Temple of Time, but had found it empty and treated with odor-destroying composition. The architects had tracked down an extensive refuge on the outskirts of the capital, not far from a dried-up lake. It was there, on the ancient battlefield, that the unmanned discoid was to land. Vir Norin gave the coordinates and stepped aside. Engineer Tail, in a low bow, greeted his earthly friends and brought to the SDP receiver 2 stereo images. Without Vir Norin's clarifications, the Starship pilots would not have known who these dignitaries were, sitting dead in luxurious black chairs, their faces distorted with horror. The terrible, irretrievable knives of Yan Yak stuck out of the twisted bodies. Genshi and Kaluf had suffered a well-deserved punishment, without waiting for the trial and investigation of Choyo Chagas, in which they may have been able to worm their way out. Hundreds of slavishly obedient people would have confused the Lord with a slew of lies. But different judges had intervened. The Grey Angels had resumed their activities with unprecedented power. 20 more main perpetrators of the attack have been sentenced to death, the engineer said with rageful triumph. What will ye achieve by this? Asked Griff Rift. It was necessary. It is necessary to be systematic and absolutely ruthless in defense against lawlessness, lies, and dishonor. On Earth, ye yourselves carefully observe in social relations the third law of Newton. For every action there is an equal and opposite reaction, opposing immediate opposition, and not trying to wait, as in ancient times, for the intervention of God, destiny, a lord. For a long time, people have awaited retribution for their executioners, and centuries have passed, accumulating evil and increasing the power of malicious people. Then your society took upon itself the function of the divine retribution of Nemesis. Vengeance is mine and I will repay, quickly eradicating villainy and torment. Ye cannot imagine how much human waste has accumulated in our country for many centuries of extermination of the best people, when small-minded opportunists, informers, executioners, and oppressors mostly survived. We should be guided by this, and not blindly imitate you. When thousands of serpent-bearers and their henchmen, the executioners of the lilacs, secretly and ingloriously begin to die, then the high position in the state will cease to attract villains. We have learned a lot from Rhodus and from all of ye, but we will have to ourselves develop the methods of struggle. Beautiful pictures of the earth and the mighty mind of Vir Norin will be our support on a long journey. There are no words with which we can express our gratitude to you, brothers. This monument will remain with us forever. Tail showed a photograph of the dark flame, taken with a telephoto lens from the heights closest to the starship. Oladez immediately reshot it. Sute came into view, saying something to Vir Norin. The discoid has landed 100 meters from us, Vir Norin exclaimed and added barely audibly, now that's it. Tail, Sute, and Vir Norin stood in front of the non-aped. The 8 Earthlings arranged themselves into a farewell line. Chetty, unable to bear the silence, shouted, "We will come, Vir, we will definitely come, when the hour of the bull has come to an end." "And we will strive to make it happen sooner," answered Vir Norin. "But if the demons of the night delay the dawn, and Earth does not receive tidings from us, let the next starship come in 100 Earth years." Vir Norin held out his right hand for the bracelet. The TVF screen of the ship turned black and mute. Simultaneously, the green light of the astronavigator on the console extinguished. The soul blinker, not a person of the Earth but the Tormancian tail, remained burning as a symbol of the restored brotherhood of the 2 planets. The return journey of the dark flame turned out to be far more difficult than the flight to Tormance, proving once again the dangerous imperfection of the SBS. For some reason, the spaceship deviated from the calculated trajectory. Instead of falling like a hawk on prey directly from the high latitudes of the galaxy to the 8th revolution of its spiral, it pierced 3 branches of the spiral and came out towards the outer edge of our island of Shakti into a belt of Roentgenogram, or neutronic stars, of such unusual density that a cubic centimeter of their substance would weigh 100 million tons on Earth. Between these supporting pillars of massive substance, at the points of contact with the densest areas of Tamas, burned special swirls of the matter of Shakti. In them, as in depthless vortices, the radiation absorbed by Tamas circled in seeming escape. They were located along the periphery of the galaxy, as if inverse to the substance of our universe. The phenomenon long remained unopened. At the time of the first acquaintance with the far reaches of the world of Shakti, these vortices were called quasars. The complex structure of the outer regions of the galaxy and metagalaxy was not described in the starlet depicting the return of the dark flame. The students understood only the formidable danger in which the ship found itself. In the TVF, They saw the short travel records of the memory machine of the starship, the emaciated black from perpetual work Menta Core, the not having slept for weeks Commander Griffrift, the exhausted engineers of the pilot and computing devices, Div Symbol and Sol Sane. Everyone had their own bodyguard. Sol Sane took care of Aviza, Symbol Chetty, Rift, Oladez, and Nea Holly managed to both monitor the biosecurity and guard Menta Core, water and feed her, massage her, lull her to sleep when there was a respite. The Dark Flame burst from the outer power zone without damage, but with depleted energy reserves. The second, more successful glide along the edge of the abyss, and the spaceship made its way into the 26th region of the 8th Revolution, from where there remained near 3 months of travel to Earth. The ship descended onto the same Rivat plateau from which it had 11 months ago departed to the planet Tormance. What happened on Earth after the arrival of the ship is known to every Earthling and is not new to you, said the teacher, extinguishing the TVF, and stopped, as if in wait. The term given by Tail is over, Kimmy suddenly grasped, and he was supported by all the others. The time has come to send the SBS. Yonder, to Tormance. Really, nothing has been done? Cried Iota. And no one has addressed the Astronautical Council? The teacher slyly followed the kindling anxiety of the young people. Finally, he raised his hand, the argument subsided, and everyone turned to him. Ye were in the Namib Desert last year, and you missed one event that stirred the pulses of the entire planet. Again, like 3 centuries ago, the Cephean SBS was in ordinary space near Tormance and was attracted by the signals of an automatic station on the satellite of the planet. By the code of the Great Circle, the station asked every SBS heading to the 26th region of the 8th arm of the galaxy to land on the planet and take a message. For us? For the Earth? Puna jumped up. And the starship took the message? It did. Which SBS could refuse to accept mail over the gigantic distances accessible only to it? What was in the message? The students asked in chorus. I do not know. Written in the language of Tormance, it is being translated and checked in the research laboratory of the planet. Very volumine new information about all that has happened in a century, more, in 130 years. But here I have prepared these 3 stereo images for you. And ye were silent? Iota reproachfully threw a dark, fiery look at the teacher. I was silent until the right time. Now ye are prepared for their perception, serenely replied the teacher. The switch of the TVF clicked. They recognized the square and the monument to Almighty Time. The old temple, the place of death of Rhodus, was no longer there. In its place, a lunar structure widely unfurled towards the sky. A staircase led to a huge and steep arch, surrounded on the upper landing by an open gallery. Both ends of the gallery, covered with transparent canopies, domes held up in some unknown way, moved sharply high and boldly, hanging over the square and the surrounding buildings. This is a monument to Earth, the teacher said quietly, from a planet that is no longer called Yan Yak, but is consonant with the earthly nickname Tormance, having received the name Tor-M-Ias. In their language it signifies the same as that which the Earth means to us. This is both the planet and its soil, on which man labored, growing food, planting gardens, and building houses for the future, for his children, for the confident path of humanity into the boundless world. In the second photo, against the background of the building, there was a sculptural group of 3 figures. "Fire roadies!" exclaimed Kimmy, and the teacher silently nodded, stirred no less than the children. Rhodus, carved from black stone in the open nakedness of her black spacesuit, was carried in the arms of 2 men with the faces of Teo and Xer Bu Yam, carved out of dark yellow, almost brown rock. Both men, Sholi and Loli, had their strong hands laying on the shoulders one of the other. Rhodus was sitting on them freely, crossing her legs, turning her face to Xer Bu Yam, and hugging Teo by the neck. For some reason, the sculptor had depicted Rhodus in a wide, casually woven turban, as Teo had seen her once. The stone of the statue, similar to the famous black opals of the Australian mainland, sparkled with internal colored lights. In such a way did millions of stars permeate the darkness of the tropical nights of Earth, which Rhodus often related to the Tormancians, inspiring them with the beauty of the world. For a long time, the Earthlings stared at the image delivered from a distance of 1,000 light-years, until the teacher forced himself to switch to the third and final image, the left pavilion. There were also sculptures here, via Noreen and Sute. The astro-navigator of the dark flame, immortalized in crimson metal, lay with exhausted arms dropped, shoulders and head resting on an SDP, eyes closed in eternal sleep. The Tormancean woman Sute of the purest white stone, raised in child's palms, precious gifts dropped by the earthly man, a matte SMI cube and a shiny oval DPE. In both figures, there was that magical unspokenness of realism that compels everyone to see in living form the miracle of their individual dreams. "Bright sky," Lark said, imitating the star pilots. "It means that on Tormance, the hour of the bull has come to an end? Did we Earthlings really do it? Rodis, Noreen, Chetty, Iviza, and all of them, who now stand on the Revat Plateau around their ship?" "No," answered the teacher. "The inhabitants of Tormance did it themselves, and only they themselves could rise from the inferno." The victims of the oligarchic regime of Tormance did not even suspect that they were victims in the invisible prison of a closed planet. They imagined themselves free until, with the arrival of our expedition, they saw true freedom, renewed their faith in a healthy human nature and its enormous potential. They, who until that point had only blindly dragged themselves behind false promises of material success. And immediately the question arose, who would answer for the wounded, depleted planet, for billions of wasted lives? Until then, any failure had been directly or indirectly paid for by the people's masses. They began to question the direct perpetrators of these failures. And then it became clear that under the new masks, the same old capitalist essence of oppression, suppression, exploitation was hidden, skillfully covered by scientifically developed methods of propaganda, suggestion, and the creation of empty illusions. The Tormanceans realized that one cannot be free and ignorant, that serious psychological upbringing is needed, that one must be able to distinguish people according to their spiritual qualities, and thwart at the roots all actions which cause evil. Then, and not earlier, was their return in the destiny of the planet. One cannot think that they have already achieved everything, but they have opened and discovered themselves, both their world and us, their brothers, as loving friends. The monument you have seen is undeniable evidence of their inspired gratitude. The arrival of our starship and the actions of the Earthlings served as an impetus. Rodis and her companions restored two gigantic social forces in the Tormanceans: faith in themselves and trust in others. Nothing is more powerful than people united by trust. Even weak people, tempered in a joint struggle, feeling that they are fully relied on, become capable of the greatest selflessness, believing in themselves as in others, and in others as in themselves. How do you sum up the significance of the expedition? Another Inferno island in the universe has been destroyed. Billions of people of the present and future have been freed from unnecessary torment, the students answered in concord. The teacher bowed to his children. "There is no better answer, and I am very pleased." "We must go once more to the Revat Plateau," said Yvette. "We will now see them completely alive." "You will soon see living Tormanceans," the teacher smiled. On the recommendation of the machines of social reason, the direct beam starship is directed there from the planet of the green sun. "And I think it is already on the planet Tormayas,"